How's it, Jordan here? In this episode, I'm going to show you how to, first of all, we're going to be adding the shooting to our game. And second of all, we're going to be fixing some bugs with the game which I've noticed. So, let's first just fix the bugs. So, I'll just show you some of the problems in the game. So, if we go to the scene, let's say, and we have our enemy follow us, it seems fine so far. But if we wait a tiny bit for it to move close to the player, it does that. And then hides in a corner apparently. So this will need to be fixed, and it's actually quite easy. I found a way to fix it all. So first of all, we're going to go over to our enemy tank. Burst increase this week, it's a bit slow, maybe 3. And everything else can be fine. The acceleration, let's make that 20. Stopping distance will be 15, and make sure auto braking is also on. And we need to increase the radius, so that'll be 2.75, I found out. Also, if we just change it to humanoid quickly, this agent type, we go in navigation. If you don't see this window, it's fine. Just go window, and AI and navigation, not the old navigation system. There's a new version. So if you click on it, then you'll get the navigation window right here. So I've got it already, so I won't have to click it. We're going to click the remove section from the list, and to make add to the list, we can name this enemy and just keep it to all the defaults. Let's go inspector agent type to enemy again, and now it's all fine. We can enable auto traverse off mesh link, and there we go. If we now select our ground, we want to click bake. Okay, now, whoops, we need to set the agent type to enemy, and now we can bake it. So if we also, I've forgotten one thing, we need to make this enemy is cinematic. So this makes it so that our player can't push it, and it fixes a weird bug. I'm still not exactly sure. I need to research more on why it does this, but when the tank's supposed to stop, it just kind of zooms over to the player incredibly fast. I'm not sure why, but Is Cinematic seems to fix that. It might be some weird force, velocity being added to the tank. I'm not sure why, but this seems to fix it. If we now press play and see it, the tank is moving, and then it will stop when it gets too close to the target, and that's perfect. Now, one problem I did notice is that now the tank, right, it won't aim at the player anymore unless we move a bit too far away out the stopping distance, and then it will instantly rotate, which is great, exactly what I want. Except we need to fix this problem, of course, as I just said, where it won't track rotation if it is within the stopping distance. So it's actually incredibly easy to fix this. All we have to do is go scripts, open our enemy scripts, and then we can just go if, okay, this will check if the enemy has stopped. Agent.velocity.square magnitude is smaller than 0.1 f, okay, which means it's stopped moving. There, nav mesh, it's got to its target. Then we can have a transform dot look at, and we're going to look at the target, in this case the player, whatever target you wanted. Then we can go unity again, and if we press play and we drive, okay, and now the enemy will always look towards the player. If we go too far away, there we go, it works nicely. So let's say we go right behind the player. Whoops, okay, that needs to be fixed. Oh my. Okay, I think I found a good way to fix this problem. So the two things we're going to do. First, we're going to open the enemy script. So if we just open it up, as you see here, I've added some extra things. We have a new quaternion. Whoops, not pause, rot. Okay, let me just change this up. So it's equal to, so we have a quaternion, we're storing the transform.rotation. Then we're doing our look at again. And essentially what we want is that it can't rotate on the X and Z axis. That was actually a bug I was meaning to fix, because let's say there was a big cliff and the player tank was right underneath it, let's say. This probably wouldn't work, but what would happen is the enemy tank would just try and rotate the entire thing down the cliff, and it would look very odd. So now the enemy tank, it won't look directly at the player, it will only rotate towards the player, so only on the y-axis. And which means that rot.y is equal to transform.rotation to y, which is after look at. And then we can go set the transform duration to our rot. So the x and z are original, well, the original ones, but the y is changed by the look at. So this doesn't work. It doesn't do anything, but it is actually something we need to fix. And now if we go back to Unity though, okay, now I'm in Unity now, and we're going to select our enemy tank. And now this won't actually, now we're going to fix the actual problem, which is the barrel of the tank is pushing the player into the ground. So to fix this, we're going to go open tank armature, roots, and barrel. We're going to see this box collider, and on exclude layers, we're going to do, if we choose here, whoops, we haven't done it yet. We need to select our player, add a layer, player, select our tank, and we choose our layer. Yes, change the children. And if we go to barrel again and exclude layers, we're going to exclude the player. There we go. And now if we let the enemy come towards us, just wait for it to come, and it will come here. Ooh, the enemy looks big, but I think that's just a perspective thing. And now the player can't interact with the barrel. Sometimes you can go through the barrel, but yeah, I don't think that can really be fixed, sadly. So if we just rotate around, the enemy should just be able to look at us the whole way through. Okay, that's a bit of a problem. I'll try and fix that, okay? Okay, I've got it all working now. This is the code you need. Whoops, let's remove the rigid body from the start. Okay, wait a second. Let me just add this, rigid body and rigid body. There we go. There's the code you need. So I'll explain it now. So first we have a quaternion, which is our rotation, which we say to the rigid body to rotation. Then have a vector 3, which is the original Euler angles. By the way, Euler angles is just like a vector 3 version of the quaternion. So it only has 3 values instead of the quaternion's W value. It doesn't include that. Okay, is equal to the rotation.Euler angles. Then we have our transform. We rotate it. We have another quaternion called new rot is equal to transform.rotation. Then we can just go vector 3 and new Euler angles. I have trouble pronouncing that, sorry. Is equal to new rot Euler angles. Okay, so we're setting the Euler angles to the new rot Euler angles. So now it's a new rotation. So we're converting the new rot to a Euler version of it. Then we can go new Euler angles. The y is equal to original Euler angles. The y. So we're overwriting it, and now we can rotate only one axis. So there's only one axis actually changing. So if we go back to Unity now, and we press play, and let's just go towards our enemy. Okay, and now it's in its rotate towards mode, and the enemy just can't like shove us underground like it did before. And it can rotate as much as you want, and it will stick to your rotation. And if we try drive away, it will try and follow us. And now imagine it's shooting, and we have a more finished product of the game, which is quite exciting. So if we just drive around, yeah, and it all works quite nicely now. If we just collide with a wall, good, that's all working. And I think, well, this is intentional game design, let's call it, okay. If you wanted, you could actually avoid that by making the walls, as I said in a few episodes back, to have the collider massive, like really big colliders. just so that means they can't go over the wall. But I think it's a funny little thing, so I'll keep it. But this will work as many enemies as you want, so you could just duplicate this enemy tank again and again. But I'm not going to duplicate the enemy tank 100 times. I'm going to apply the enemy tank, select our tank, and let's apply everything. Good, now everything's a nice prefab which you can drag in the scene. And now we're ready to add shooting, which will be awesome. So if we right click, we're going to create a script, shooting. Okay, go open our script, let's wait for it to load. We're going to then make what's called a header. You don't need to follow this, by the way, the header part at least, because it's totally useless, doesn't do anything, except what it does do is it just separates some things in the inspector window. So it just makes some bold text which explains what this part, your variables do, what all these variables do. Let's say you could have a settings one, and I'm just going to have a shooting one. We're then going to have a serialized field, transform, okay, bullets, spawn prefab, another serialized field which is going to be a game object, and that's another bullets prefab. And what I actually really love about C# is it's what's called an object-oriented programming languages. So I believe most C languages are object-oriented, I think, and C# is definitely one of them, and I'll explain what that means. But basically what we can do is we can go our shooting, we can then go to our player controller and just remove monobeam and replace with shooting, and then we get all these classes. I'll explain it properly later, though when you're done. We have a private, there's a private float, bullet force is equal to 70F, and then we're going to have a public void shoot. And I'll explain also why we're all doing it in the shooting class, and we're not just copying this code for the player controller and the enemy one, because it's quite nice and dynamic. So we're going to have a Boolean input inside the shooting function, or method actually, is enemy bullet. There we go. And why I'm adding this is if it is an enemy bullet, then I made it so you can only hit players. So there's no friendly fire going on here. So enemies can't hit other enemies. And you could remove this if you wanted, and just remove all the code that is enemy bullets, because you don't need it. The friendly fire just means that basically all the tanks just shoot each other, and well, that's the whole game pretty much. So I want so they all try and shoot the planes of each other. We have a new bullet game object equal to instantiate. We're going to have the bullet prefab, and it's going to have I'm going to have a bullet spawn, bullet spawn point as point. Let's try and, okay, for some reason I don't seem to have that here. I named it prefab, sorry. Let's name it point dot position, okay. Then we can go transform dot rotation. We can add a rigid body. This will be called bullets rigid body. Okay, right like this is equal to new bullet. Okay, dot get component. We're getting the rigid body of that bullet, just so we can shoot it off with a force. Go new bullet again, dot get component, bullet. Okay, we don't have that script yet, so just don't worry about it. And bullet dot is enemy bullet. Don't worry about it, we don't have the script yet, as I said. And then we're going to set it to is enemy bullet. We can then go bullet rigid body dot add force. We're going to give it the bullet spawn point dot forward, okay, dot forward, times by the bullet force. Now that kind of shows how fast the bullet will go. And then we can go change force mode dot impulse. And impulse adds an instant force impulse to the rigid body using its mass. That's what we want. And now we've done with the shooting script. We can then go back to Unity. We can right click, create C# script, bullets. Okay, just like that. And we can then, in our bullet script, all we're going to do is we're going to add we're going to select everything and delete it all. Public boolean is enemy bullet is equal to false. That's just default, so you can just say it away if we want. You could say it to true, anything. Serialized field again, we're going to make a new serialized field. Float, lifespan, and this will make it so if the bullet shot into the air, let's say, it will despawn after a bit. After, I think it's 5 seconds. Yes, 5 seconds here, it will despawn. On start, then, and I actually like this trick, I learned it a bit ago, we can go destroy instantly, right? So we're going to destroy the bullet instantly, but instead of just destroying it instantly, we want to give it a float T in this case, which is the delay before it destroys it. So after 5 seconds, no matter what happens, it will delete it. So we're going to do a private void destroy tank. Okay. And we're going to input a collision, and if it is, there's a bit of a long if statement here. So if it's an enemy bullet is equal to true, and the collision dot game object dot compare tag, okay, is a player. So this will say true because okay, let's just do it. So if it's an enemy bullet and it hits the player, that's what then we can destroy the player. There's the other condition, collision.gameObject.compare tag is it hits an enemy. And we don't even have to check whether is enemy bullet is false or not, because we know if this didn't say true, then this is definitely going to be false. So is enemy bullet must be false then. We can then destroy, and we'll destroy the collision.gameObject. And then we're going to have a private void on collision enter, and we're going to call destroy tank, and it's going to give it the collision. Right. If we go player control, the last thing we're going to do is on the fire, we're going to input change the mono behavior to our shooting class. And what this means is that then the fire, I believe it's called, is now part of this class almost, even though it's still part of the shooting class. It inherited it. And we don't have to go like shooting dot fire and input all these values. We just go fire and true, because it is so if we check here, the fire, it wants to know whether, whoops, not fire, I think, actually, yes, it is shoot. I think I did that a bit wrong, sorry. There we go, shoot, and is enemy bullet, that would be false, because it's not an enemy bullet. If we then load Unity, we select our tank, we need to give it a few values. Now it's part of the shooting, as you see here, they have the whole setup, which is really quite cool. If we open our tank, we can go to open barrel end. We're going to duplicate the barrel end part, and we're just going to name it, what did we name this? Bullet spawn points. Bullet spawn, whoops, bullet spawn point, and make sure the z-axis is pointing to outwards of the tank. And whoops, it didn't seem to name it for some reason. Damn. Bullet spawn point, and we can add the bullet spawn point. Then we can go prefabs. Let's go 3D object. We're going to add whatever object you want. This will be a placeholder, which will change out later on. This can be the bullets. Right. Let's set it to 0, 0, 0, its position. And let's try and move it over to the player tank. And it can be this big if you want. I'm just going to make it like 0. Let's say 5, so it's half the size, I guess. There'd be 5. Drag it in the prefabs folder. We're going to add the bullet to the prefab as well. And we can delete the bullet from the scene. Now if we go player tank. Drag in the bullet, and there we go, bullet prefab. So now if we press play, let's test it. Okay, something went a bit wrong. Oh, I know why. If we go bullet, we need to add a rigid body and disable use gravity. And if we then press play and let's test it. Now this will come with a few problems. Okay, now this may look very strange, but it is actually quite good. If we go to our bullet spawn point, I believe it's pointing in -X for some reason. I'm not sure why. Let's try and fix that. Just first reset this position. Bullet spawn point, let's rotate it by 90 degrees. Oh, sorry, it's local. There we go. There, now it shows where it's actually pointing in. And let's make the x-axis -90. And you may also notice that it's shooting like 100 bullets every single time. It's shooting way too many bullets, way too fast. So this will need to be fixed. Okay, and I don't know why it decided that it can't hit anything. That is weird. Okay, this needs to be fixed. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to select our bullet spawn points. And we're going to go to our enemy tank, new layer, add layer. And let's add a enemy. The enemy tank will have the enemy layer on it. No, actually, sorry, no. Let's remove that layer, sorry. Okay, I think I fixed the problem. All we have to do is go layer override on the bullets and include layers. Now it seems to work. One last problem is now we can actually shoot the player, the enemy, sorry. So if we drive over and we start shooting, it must actually hit the enemy, and we killed it. Okay, one last thing I did is if we open our bullet script, I made it destroy game objects when we destroy the tank. So if we actually hit the tank, and one last thing you can do is if we hit anything actually, we can just destroy game objects. There we go. Then what we can do is we can just fix the problem where you can shoot tons of bullets at the same time. It's actually quite simple. All we do is make a private float. This will be bullets, cooldown timer, cooldown time. Okay, and then we have a private. Actually, let's make this a serialized field. Then we have a private float, which will be the bullets cooldown time, and this will be the timer. Okay, and then we can just select our bullet cooldown time. And on update, bullet cooldown time will be minus by time dot delta time. Then on our fire, we can only fire if the bullet cooldown time, okay, is going to be smaller or equal to 0. And if it is, then we can just go the bullet cooldown time is equal to bullet cooldown timer. Right, and the time is equal to, let's say, 0.1 second, 0.1 F. If we have Unity now we open Unity and we can press play, and now we can only shoot one bullet at a time. And if we start shooting, and if we just hit the enemy, and we destroyed the enemy, nice. If we shoot anything else, it will destroy it. Okay, perfect. This is the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next one. Bye!